Welcome to the Kellfire Show. I am Dr. Kelly Barron, and today I am so excited to have Kristen Damery on. I've been waiting for this podcast for a while. So, Kristen, thank you so much for coming on today and for talking to us. I think everyone's going to love our subject. Kristen is a pelvic health therapist that set out to create a way for women to feel comfortable with pursuing their sexual wellness. That mission led Kristen to become the founder and the creator of Lava Lube, a premium personal lubricant brand designed for intimacy. So now that we've sort of given everyone the topic of our conversation today, welcome. And what did I leave out about your bio?
Thank you. Nothing really. I always feel so honored after those are read because I don't know, hearing it out loud is really cool. I'm very proud of where I've come to, and it was hard and it's fun. And I know people like you understand that, but it just feels really cool to hear it out loud. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. And I'm very
Oh,
honored to be here, and I've been looking forward to it too.
well, I'm very excited. So I'm going to open with, the first question, which would be, you founded Lava Lube, which, by the way, I love the name.
Thank you.
So I'll even ask you that after.
Mhm.
But because you said that there was a real gap in the intimate wellness space. So what inspired you?
So, my favorite thing to treat as a pelvic health physical therapist is pelvic pain. And, I kind of just started thinking through that, like, why in the world do I want to treat pain? And it was because typically we had really good results, and people would come back in and be like, I had sex for the first time in 6 months, or I had sex for the first time in a year. And I like had this overwhelming sense of joy. And so, when I thought through that a little bit, I was like, I really enjoy helping people restore intimacy. It's kind of like this little chip on my shoulder. It's like I got to be a part of maybe restoring a relationship or helping a relationship grow stronger or helping a woman feel more confident and communicating needs and desires. And so I was like, how can I take this out of like my clinic here in my small town and make this bigger? And I landed on formulating lube. Now, I was totally out of my league. I had no idea what I was doing. And it took about 2 years because it, takes some doing and learning and all of that to go ahead and get launched. But I'm proud of it. And I hope that, through being able to have conversations like this, which I never would have had before, I probably never would have put myself out there to be able to do this. You and I are making a really big difference in women's lives.
Okay. How Lava Lube? How did you come on the name?
Yes. Okay.
Because I've tried to guess. I've tried to guess. I'm like, I'm not coming up with anything.
Yes, really, honestly, the first thing that I wanted was it to be like a rhyming type, so I was trying to think of things that would rhyme with lube that were, still kind of led you to a feeling that I wanted you to have, and I actually threw out lava, and my husband was like, "Yes." You start thinking about eruptions and heat and passion and all of those sorts of things. Now, I have had some feedback. People are like, "Well, I think of like too hot." And I was like, well, let's just switch our frame a little bit and go back to that, erupt in pleasure. We're wanting to hit a climax, that sort of thing. My lube does not warm. And so that's one thing, when you think about lava, you probably start thinking of, but I just wanted it to rhyme, be kind of catchy and make you think something, in your mind, take you to a place that was pleasurable.
So how has the conversation around sexual wellness and lubrication changed in the last few years? Because, we're just now really starting to talk about sexual health in the most positive way.
Mhm.
And then you throw in things like lube. How has that conversation changed?
Mostly I feel like social media has helped a ton with that. The more access we have to information that's just not coming from like your healthcare provider, when you see people who are normal and going through what you're going through, using things, I think that takes away a little bit of the taboo nature of the topic. I also think we're really hitting big right now on menopause and perimenopause, and that's a time, as you know, that we have the estrogen depletion and a lot of dryness, and women are kind of feeling confident in owning what they need to have pleasure, where previous in the past we've kind of been hush hush about those types of needs. And so I feel very confident about where we're going with sexual wellness. Now, lube still, if you ask some people, they're like, well, you should have taken a long enough time to get your partner aroused, or you should have done this. And there is some room for that conversation as well. But there also are situations where physiologically lubricant is just not being created enough on its own. Hormone shifts, postpartum. Maybe you're just in for a quickie, you know? I mean, we don't have, and that's my choice. Like I want to maybe have an afternoon quickie, and maybe we don't have enough time to continue through with most of the things I would do to get aroused. So I'm not saying it's my spouse's fault for not taking the time. We just don't have the time, and that's a good time for lube as well. But we go through so many life changes as women. Maybe we're dehydrated. Maybe we're stressed. Maybe we're all kinds of things that impact that lubrication. And we still need, and we do have great options to help us get to a comfortable position without having to stress.
I also think it's just why can't lube be just part of fun?
Right.
You know,
Yes. Yeah.
maybe you are fully aroused and you're good to go. And maybe
Mhm.
that just becomes part of the fun of the situation or the
Yes.
ritual. I think we need to embrace that a little bit more.
I agree with you there. And I frequently say we like to go to new restaurants or we like to have new experiences because our body craves novelty. It's not necessarily that we need a change in our partner or in our spouse. It's just that we want to try something new. And for some people, introducing a lubricant is just fun, or using it in a different way, or maybe drizzling it on your body as opposed to using it even where you would traditionally think, or on your nipples. There's so many things that you can do with it to be creative that create new sensations and bring novelty into the bedroom without getting too wild, you know?
Right.
Mhm.
So, and not a lot of people know, they know, okay, what lube is in theory.
Mhm.
But, what are you looking for in terms of, and there's a lot out there about what's good for your vaginal pH, what's good for your body, what ingredients are safe, what's the difference between water and silicone? Can you kind of walk us through that?
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so there's three main types, and that's a water-based lube, a silicone-based lube, and an oil-based lube. A water-based lube is going to be great if you want to use toys. You can't use a silicone-based on a silicone toy. So if you're using a glass toy, then you could, but you've got to be very careful about silicone's interaction with its own with silicone. Water's gonna dry up pretty quick though, and it does have to have preservatives in it because it is water. So we have a change in pH. There may be some sugars that are added in there. Those will change your pH. So water's good for what it's good for. It's good for toys. It's going to be a pretty generic lubricant. We get to silicone-based lube, and the reason why I obviously I'm going to be a little high on silicone-based lube because that's what mine is. So you guys will just have to bear with me here because I'm like a proud mom. But the reason I chose silicone is because it's not absorbed by our body. It also doesn't have to have any preservatives, and you can just stick with pure medical grade silicone. So we did that because I was thinking more on the pelvic health world, not necessarily the toy world. It stays around for a long time. It's not absorbed. The molecules are too big. It helps with pelvic pain if you're having pain. It doesn't physically help, but it's very slick. So that's why I went with that. But it can't be used with toys. It is safe with condoms. Then we have oil-based lube, which also stays around for a while. It's very slick. It's very heavy though. So oftentimes, and you'll see now, I think on TikTok, there's this natural lube, coconut oil thing. And I have a lot
Yes.
of patients who use coconut oil, and for some people it really, really works. But those oils are very heavy. So if somebody has a tendency to have yeast infections, bacterial vaginosis, any of those, it's going to trap those bacterias in the lubricant, kind of hold them down, and you're going to probably see a rise in those types of infections. So if you're having itching or something like that, I would definitely think to the lube or the product you're using, particularly if it's oil based. But again, it lasts a long time and it feels really good. So there's pros and cons to all of them, and they're all there for a very specific purpose.
I always, when we're talking about sexual health and we're talking about female anatomy and different things like lube, toys, washes, anything that's out there on the market, and that the oil-based coconut oil, thing that you brought up. This is what bothers me, and I'm new to this, so I'm not. It's starting to bother me. We will spend hundreds of dollars on skincare,
Yes.
hundreds of dollars, but yet we'll go to Costco and we'll get the 5-gallon drum of coconut oil for $7.99,
Mhm.
and we're going to use that internally
Yeah.
and we can justify that. And that's one of the biggest things that I would love to see women get really comfortable with is that what you do here, you should also be investing that much time and money with your vagina, your
Mhm.
vulva, everything that you have, your lady
Yes.
parts, if you will.
I agree, and it takes a minute. I tell my patients this. You just for whatever reason, maybe it's a conservative upbringing, maybe it's, we call I had somebody I knew that called your vaginal area, your genitals, the no-no square. Like, there's just really not a reason that we think of to think about it until we have something happening there. So really, that's going to have to be a shift that we see in that we think about that before there's a problem. Because now we're like, oh, there's dryness. Oh, it's itchy. Oh, sex is not comfortable. But we didn't think about what we were doing up until that time that we started having those symptoms. And the coconut oil feels like it's very natural because it's coconut oil. It is natural, but maybe not naturally supposed to be in the vaginal canal. Mhm.
Exactly, because we are talking, and especially when we're talking about perimenopause, which we know now can start 35 and up, even earlier than 35, we become a little bit more susceptible to bacterial infections, different sort of internal things that we've been avoiding, throwing our pH off, and we should be really investing in good, clean, healthy choices. Again, yes, coconut oil is great. It's cheap. It's natural, but it's not necessarily where that should be.
Mhm.
Um, what are some of the biggest myths or misconceptions about lubricants that you wish women knew more, the truth about?
We touched on that a little bit earlier, but I think it is that there doesn't have to be a problem to use it. Like, that's the biggest thing that I'm hearing from a lot of people and just me as a lube founder. I call myself a lube slinger. I don't know. I
That is
rated that. I'm like
awesome.
the lube slinger. Should I take my TikTok name just to lube slinger? But
You should.
I feel like we, for the longest time, just been conditioned that you only use a lubricant if there's something wrong. And I obviously, from, just honesty from a sales standpoint, I want people to want to use lube for their bathtubs. I mean, just use it all the time. But I think that we're kind of seeing a shift in the way we perceive it, that it can be about pleasure and not about treating a symptom. And so that's kind of the biggest myth in my mind, probably, that I can think of. And also, the younger you are, a lot of my young patients are like, oh, I don't need lube. I don't need lube. And we go again back to what we talked about. It can just be part of a fun bedroom experience as opposed to having to replace your own natural lubrication. It's just it's fun. It's like a candle, massage candle. We can use that for a massage or for fun or just to add something spicy to the bedroom. Hmm.
The idea of being non-conventional,
Hmm.
unconventional, if you will,
Hmm.
with like when you said drizzle it on your body
Yeah.
or even use it for massage. I think that's pretty cool. And that could just make it that much more interesting
Yeah,
as
and
opposed to
sensory things, you know what I mean? Any type of changes in the way that we touch each other. And, I've been married for 20 years. I have a wonderful marriage. I have a great sex life, but sometimes it is fun just to change some things up. And in my opinion, this is a little chip on my shoulder. I feel like we're pretty good at that just because we're aware that it needs to happen. But sometimes it takes a minute to kind of get that mindset and start to introduce, and it doesn't have to be this humongous shift. It doesn't have to be this ginormous date night where rose petals are everywhere and candles and all that stuff. That's great too, and that's really fun, but oftentimes there just needs to be a little bit of shift in something to keep making it exciting and new, and that's a really easy way to do it.
I think if we start recognizing that you could be 25, you could be 45, it doesn't matter your age. You could be lubricating normally all the time. You may not have hit that hormonal, but again, you just never know if your cycle, your stress, just like you said, dehydrated. Well, men will walk or and I shouldn't say all men, but typically you would find if someone has a condom in the couple, it's going to be the male.
Yes.
So why are we women not walking around with our little bitty, purse-sized lube just in
Yeah,
case? I
I
mean,
got you
why
covered.
not?
I got you covered.
Oh, that's right. I'm excited.
Yes, yes,
I
yes.
did I did just order, the pack, and so I am super excited because I was like, "Ooh, travel size and regular size." And it's
Yes.
such a pretty bottle. It's
Thank
such
you.
a pretty bottle. It's one that you're like, if it's accidentally left out, maybe not if you have children, but it's not like an abusive on your eyes when you walk in, like, "I'm lube" on your end table.
Yes, thank you. Yes, I agree, and it's going to take women. This is my opinion. I think social media is where everything starts now. Women being willing to come out and say, "I carry lube." Now, obviously, I would love it to be lava, but any kind of lube. This is what I carry with me. This is what I do, and then women will be able to normalize that in their mind. It's really hard to step out and be the first one to do something that's considered novel. I'm going to say it's considered novel, but we as women founders and just women in the sexual wellness space probably need to be the forerunners in that movement just to make other women feel confident in doing that because why not? If it's available, why not use it? I think I lost you for a minute.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
okay. She'll splice it back in. You
Okay,
froze,
perfect.
and I was like, "Oh, I hope you didn't say something awesome." It'll record on your end.
Oh, okay.
Um, it'll keep recording on your end. All right, we'll jump right back
Okay.
into it. So what was that transition like? Going from, being a um therapist,
Hmm.
pelvic health therapist, and then jumping into, like you said, unknown territory, which
Yes.
you had an idea, you knew what you wanted to achieve, and then you had to build it. You had to birth this. How
Hmm.
did that process? Was it a long process? Did you know where to go, what to do, or did you just feel it all out?
Yep. I just felt it all out. Now, I've always been a fairly determined and motivated individual, and if I came up with an idea of any kind, I was probably going to accomplish it. Now, this one, obviously, from the financial standpoint, took a whole lot more than like a little idea to go shopping somewhere. It took some doing, and so I um, spoke to my husband about it quite often, and he's very, very supportive. And he was always like, "I'll support you, whatever you want to do. I'll support you, whatever you want to do." Well, in this situation, that just wasn't quite enough for me to jump forward. He was very supportive, but I needed him to say yes or no. I needed like something to help me springboard because these ideas were swirling in my mind. I was thinking about them all the time and I couldn't get them out of my mind, which was an indicator to me that I needed to go ahead. I just needed that, like, yes, you can do this kind of thing. So one day I walked up to him and I said, "I need you to tell me no. Like, I need you to say, no, we are not doing this." And he said, "I'm not going to tell you that. I think you should." And I was like, "Well, okay." All of a sudden it was like the world just opened up to me. And I said, "But I don't really know what I'm doing." And he said, "Do one thing every day that gets you one step closer." And that made it to where it didn't feel quite so overwhelming because it is very overwhelming. How to, creating a business, particularly if you've never done something like that before. I have zero business background. I have never truly been an entrepreneur. I've been in medicine, which has its own challenges, but it's definitely different than being a founder of a business. And so I did that. I had this little journal and I would write one thing down that I did each day, one contact I made on how to even create lube, what regulations are required, what insurances. There's so many things that go into lubricants because they are considered a class 2 medical device because they're inserted into the vaginal canal. And so it took us about 2 years to get it all together. And we launched last July. I still, to this day, Google the heck out of anything I need to find. If I need to find a chemist to create a new product, which we just finished, we talked about that. I just Googled and throw out all these contacts, and then people email me back. And like one time I was looking for something, and this lady emailed me and she's like, "We make like greases for like machines and such." I was like, "Well, that was probably the most interesting email you've gotten all day." And so it's just like, let's throw this hook out and see what fish bites, and then we go from there. So that's how it's been so far. And, we've had success that way and a lot of learning. And obviously, there's a lot of things that I would change about the way that I did things, not the formulation or anything like that, but I just know more now than I did
Right.
before. And so it's been a very interesting transition, and it's really fun to tell people most of the time. I'm like, "Do you know I own a lube company? Do you know I own a lube company?" Like you just got to throw that out every once in a while, because it's just kind of unusual.
So I'm a loop slinger.
Yep, I'm a lube
Um,
slinger. Yep,
you need the sticker on the back of your car, like "Lube for Life" or
yes.
something like that.
Mm-hmm.
That would be
It's
amazing.
like you want a lube, and
What
you want a lube, and you want a lube, and
Yeah.
you get a lube. That's what I feel like from my purse. Christmas party, I just like walked up and put them in people's hands this Christmas, and they'd be
Oh,
like,
that's
"What is
awesome.
this?" Oh, sorry. They'd be like, "What is this?" And I was like, "No, no, no, put your hand down." Which I don't know why. I'm not embarrassed by it in any way, shape, or form. But we were in a public place. So everybody's like, "Guess what I have in my pocket?" Just made everybody's night a little more fun.
One of the things that I like when I was talking to you before we started recording was you were telling me, sort of that lead up process and that you guys have tested even that's what I love about a company that personally tests their products,
Mhm.
tests all the variations, the formulations till like it's not getting randomly tested or you're not just relying on what the manufacturer told you. You're like right in it deep friends. I truly think like that's the sign of someone that's got a lot of heart, a lot of pride over their product is that you wanted to make sure for yourself that this was indeed a really high quality product. And I applaud that.
Thank you.
Also, one of the things that's my favorite about your company and you in general is your support of women.
Mhm.
Now, I know you came from, that was your passion is women's wellness, especially sexual wellness and pelvic floor health. But you also are out there supporting other women with, similar or other products that are in this industry. And that's just it's rare.
Thank you.
And I'm really appreciative to have met you.
Thank you.
And like we said, we need to have more women championing other women in
Mhm.
this crazy midlife entrepreneur change simply because they want to make women's lives better.
For me, it makes me feel more powerful. I'm surrounded by very powerful women. I've experienced it. And if you have gone through what I've gone through, we need to be friends. Like if you have put in the amount of effort, there is not a reason in the world that anyone should tear another woman down. Like we can all have so much success in a space that's very similar and do it together. And that's been one of my favorite things. And I think that's what you're talking about before, when we were visiting, is how many amazing women have found things that they wanted to change or problems they wanted to fix or just new ideas, and they've gone after it. And to me, that makes me so proud to be a woman, that we're so strong and we can, and we're killing it.
Right. I think this as perimenopause, first came menopause and then perimenopause. When that became spotlighted and we started to talk about that, you saw this explosion of women entrepreneurs who were like, you know what, we're done. This is not taboo. We really need to address this. We can make it sexy, we can make it cool, but we're going to either bring knowledge, we're going to bring products, solutions out to women, much like what you're doing, that you're bringing a solution to women, perimenopause and menopause. Again, that's one of the things that I hear so much from women is this shame and embarrassment when they are dry, when they are
Mhm.
in pain, when all of a sudden they're like, I can't have sex. And then that's loss of self-confidence.
Mhm.
And all it takes is one little product to help you get through that.
Mhm.
And you've brought that to life.
And I think that generations before us would never have had that conversation. And we're kind of that transition generation going from, oh, did I go away or am I here still?
Nope, you're
Okay,
here.
good. I'm so sorry. We're kind of that transition generation of like, we're tired of being quiet about it. We're tired of like, I'm going to say suffering, and suffering can be taken in so many different ways, but we're tired of suffering in silence. Like, why not bring this to light and find out from other people what they're doing to help, and just owning your own pleasure. Like it's we're getting to a point to where before maybe, and not all the time, but like sex was more for procreation. It's always been pleasurable, I hope, but there's a lot of women and a lot of my patients who have never had an orgasm. And that is, now I feel like even in that realm, we're talking more and more about that and how important orgasms are and what kind of physiological things it does for women. It empowers women to be like, I've never had an orgasm, but let's fix that. And so there's just a lot going on in the transition from the way it once was to the way that we want it to be now. And women are taking a more active part in that. A lot of the companies that you'll find previously, those big name companies, not that they're bad, I'm not bashing anyone, but are run by men.
Mhm.
And I'm
Right.
married to a man and I have men children, I have boys. And so I am all about men. I'm married to a strong man and I'm so grateful. But I also know that I'm a strong woman too. And I know what women need. I know what I need. And it's really encouraging to see women starting to be the founders of these companies because the products are for women. Now they feel good for men too. Like what man doesn't want to have lubricant? It feels great. And so
Yeah.
that's also good. But I also know a woman. And so I love female founders.
If there's one thing that you could tell anyone that's listening about either or lube or why or how to use it or anything that we haven't talked about that you think is important to leave these women with, what would you say?
Okay, you're gonna open up my pelvic health can of worms.
I love it.
I created lube because I love helping women experience pleasure. I know I've said that multiple times because it's very important to me, but I am a clinician at heart. That's where I came from. I want to sell lube. I have a company. I'm proud of it. But when all of that is stripped away, I'm a pelvic health PT. And I want everyone to know that sex should not hurt. Shouldn't be painful. Pleasure shouldn't be painful. If you can change positions while you're doing it and the pain goes away, that's fine. Temporary discomfort, that's something that can be addressed. If you're having pain every single time you're having sex, it's time to do something about it. We don't cover our faces. We don't drink a glass of wine and just do it. That's not how we're made. That's not how this is supposed to be. There's so much help out there. There's so many products. There's so many professionals who that's their job. And so my main thing when I do any podcast is to tell women, please, please, please go seek care. Your physician, talk to a pelvic health PT. I promise you won't be disappointed that you did. And your sex life will be exponentially better when it doesn't hurt.
I couldn't have said it better. I agree. I often say when dealing with menopause or perimenopause patients that men typically, because everything is just so linear with them, it's so easy, their hormones, how it all goes down, aging, they can primarily stick with 1 to 2 physicians or people in their network, right? Women, we need multiple. So you need like pelvic health specialists. You might need mental health to address that. Your OBGYN, there's someone that's going to help you with exercises. There's just so many things and creating a network. I love your website. I love what you're speaking about. And I think that could be a resource for women that, maybe it's not like they have direct communication with you, but they can watch your pages, they
Mhm.
can look at your website, and they can get information. They can also understand that it's not taboo and it's not shameful. I think your website's like got a sexy vibe to
Thank
it. So
you.
kind of
Thank you.
like, it's like when you go, you're like, ooh, yes, I must have this lube and this is going to make
Yes.
me sexy. Um, so having said that, can you tell me websites, socials where people can find you?
Absolutely. So my website is mylavalube.com. Same for socials, mylavalube on all of them. And if anybody does have a question, do the contact us and ask. Obviously, I can't talk to specific medical things. I am not seeing that person, but I can easily get a hold of those and direct you in the right direction. So please feel free to do that. We're small enough right now that I can do that. Hopefully, hopefully, someday maybe I won't be able to, but I can now. And then yeah, the socials I told you about. And let's create a code. I haven't made one, but let's make a code for you for any of your listeners. Do
Sure.
you want to do Kellfire
Sure.
20.
Perfect.
So Kellfire 20, and that'll do 20% off at checkout.
Woo! Thank you
Yeah.
for giving everyone that gift. That's
Yeah, you're
huge.
welcome, you're welcome.
Seriously, the packaging is beautiful. I can't wait to
Thank
test
you.
it out. I know I just got my, I think yesterday I got your package has shipped. I was like, "Oh, what day is it coming?"
Yes, yeah, it's just fun to
I'm
get that stuff
excited.
in the mail. Same with your chocolate, like, it sets you up. I had a couple tell me a long time ago, now I'm diverting, but they said, "Always have something to look forward to." And that's a thing that
Absolutely.
is also in life, but also in pleasure, like in your relationship. And I'm not a relationship specialist, but I have quite a bit experience in it now. To have something to look forward to just changes everything. It doesn't allow things to get stagnant. So even if it's a lube or if it's a chocolate or if it's a massage candle, something to be different is really, really fun. So I hope that that does that for you.
I agree, and I think everyone should take that advice to heart. Just make it fun. It's especially when you're past worrying about creating children, if that
Yes.
was, a goal. Once
Uh-huh.
you get past that, it's all fun then,
Yep.
and sometimes you just need a little help when you're
Mhm.
having fun.
Mhm. If you allow it to be, right? So we've
Right.
got so many other things. My pelvic health self is like, we got all your nervous system. You be able to relax and that down train and all those things. So that may be a conversation for another day. I can kind of get sidetracked there, but yes, the goal is for it to be fun.
Well, Kristen, I want to thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story. Everybody go to mylavalube.com,
Mhm.
use the code Kellfire20 so you can get 20% off. I guarantee you won't regret it.
Okay.
Uh, Kristen, your message is so awesome. And
Thank you.
I do hope you can come back on and we can get all into the pelvic health one day.
Yes.
You're a busy, busy, busy woman. And I look forward, I will be seeing Kristen at the Stimulate 2026 show. So I'm so excited we'll get to meet in person and talk all things lube and pelvic health.
Yep.
But
Absolutely.
thank you again, Kristen, for coming on. We'll put your website and your socials in the show notes. So everybody, if they didn't catch it, can jump right on there with the code and follow along.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the time. It's been a blast.